Hello, everyone, and welcome into an all-new edition of the Sports Stove Football Show on the Sports Stove Media Network, presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. Join the flavor revolution at righteousfelon.com. Use the promo code STOVE15. If you use it this week, you get 20% off your purchase. If you wait till later, you get 15% off your purchase. So use that code for a great discount right now at righteousfelon.com. All right, the NFL season has wrapped. The final game has been played, and we are here to talk about that, plus a little bit of what is to come. I'm Vince Stover, joined as I am every week by my dad, Dale Stover. Dad, how you doing?
Doing good. Made it through 60 Super Bowls. Hard to believe. So
that's right. And this one was it was close early. It was competitive defensively early. The final score shows you that Seattle controlled the game, even though they could not score touchdowns for a little while. They took the points. Those added up, and before it was all said and done, Seattle walks away Super Bowl champions. And, Dad, all I can think about is the Vikings fans out there right now, just watching Sam Darnold win a Super Bowl. It makes me smile. But that being said, Sam Darnold, he didn't have a great day or anything like that. No interceptions, which is good. Kenneth Walker, 135 yards rushing. Cooper Kupp had the leading receiver for Seattle, at least in receptions and yards. A.J. Barner with, of course, the touchdown. On the other side, the Patriots, Drake May got sacked. He got hit. He had 2 interceptions. He had a fumble. They were all over him during this game. Drake May was the leading rusher for the New England Patriots. That's not good. And so we see all that play out to Seattle being the champions this year. Your thoughts on what you saw Super Bowl-wise this year?
Well, Seattle, it's been their defense all year, and that definitely is what it was in this game. Drake may not have been 100%, but again, like I said, they just had all kinds of pressure and everything on him. I think one of a little bit surprising, but key to the game was the MVP, which was Walker. He really had a good game, ran hard, and I thought early on New England still played pretty good defense, but like I said, they couldn't score, and so they were able to just keep kicking field goals. Super Bowl, you never know who's going to kind of step up. Cooper Kupp had a bigger game than he has a lot this season. This hasn't been a great season for him. The other wide receiver is tremendous. But, again, Darnold did a great job controlling the game and everything from there. Walker was really fun to watch, though, a lot of times you look back now, even with 60 Super Bowls, who was the MVP? And he'll always have that. And, again, I think if he can stay healthy, he's, definitely proved he's a good running back. So, again, I don't know, wasn't the most exciting Super Bowl necessarily that we've ever had. But if you enjoy football and good defense, and so Seattle definitely controlled things. And again, first of the year, you say, well, Seattle's going to win the Super Bowl. You wouldn't have said that. And a couple things fell their way. I've heard a guy on the radio this week say a lot about if Seattle had not gotten home field advantage, if they had not been the number 1 seed, would have they been there? Talking about how important that is. And, you just never know from that standpoint. But Seattle controlled things. And, congratulations to them, the coach, only in his second year. That's great there. And, again, New England. New England had a good year. And I think they have a lot to look forward to, being a young team and getting where they did. Of course, you never know if you're going to get back. Always remember Dan Marino, oh, he'll have lots of opportunities, and that never happened.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, New England, they made the most out of their year. Their schedule was about as easy as you could get in the NFL this year. But when they got to the playoffs, they still won those games. They struggled against Denver, which ultimately worried me. Their defense was fine, but their offense could not score against Denver. And so, Seattle comes in. We both picked Seattle to win. I thought it would be closer than it was. But again, had New England just been able to put points on the board, it would have been closer. But Seattle's defense did what it did all season long. It did its job. It did its part. And as a result of that, they are Super Bowl champions. I'm happy. I'm happy for Darnold. He's been drafted by the Jets. That didn't go well. Was Carolina. Minnesota was great. And then they got rid of him. And then, he does the exact same thing in Seattle they did in Minnesota, with the exception of the rest of his team picked him up on his bad days. And Minnesota didn't do that for him. And he goes to the Super Bowl. He wins the Super Bowl. And Seattle able to send off their offensive coordinator in style last night as Clint Kubiak named the head coach of the Raiders first thing on Monday. So, it's an exciting time as the season ends. We can look back and we could go through all of our predictions and our win totals and all that kind of stuff. But today, what I want us to do in just a short amount of time, I want us to look at next year a little bit. And I want to talk about these two teams, the Patriots and the Seahawks, use them as the example. So we're going to look at next year's Patriots. Who's the person or the team, who's the team that can have had a bad season here in 2025, who's going to turn things around in 2026? New England was 4-13 last season, and they are 14-3 this season. So they flipped it around. They got a new head coach. They added some nice pieces, especially on the defensive line. They added a wide receiver threat, and they make it all the way to the Super Bowl. So, Dad, who had a bad year in 2025 that you think will be next year's Patriots team that'll turn things around and have a great season next season?
Well, I think, again, if their quarterback's healthy, I looked at this and it's a team that I thought would really do better this year. But I still think Washington has a chance to do real well. If their quarterback, I really like Daniels. If he's healthy, I like the coach. I like the energy there that they have. So I think now whether Washington will be in the Super Bowl, I don't know. But right. I would think they if Daniels is healthy and can play the whole year, depending, will they pick some people up? I would think so here in the offseason. So that's one team. I have a couple. I don't know. I guess I don't think you really couldn't say Baltimore had a bad year, could you?
I would. I mean, they had a disappointing year.
Yeah,
they weren't a bad team. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll do better, but I don't know that they fit in this category. The other team would be the Giants. The Giants didn't do well. Seems like they have, made a good coaching hire. Again, injuries was a big deal with them. Yeah. If Neighbors comes back, if Scatabo comes back, they could turn things around quickly. Both them and Washington are in a division where I think they would have a chance. Yeah. Philadelphia may kind of fall apart next year. We'll see. And Dallas will be Dallas. So, we'll see. But that's the two teams I would think of.
So I eliminated Kansas City, Cincinnati, and Washington because I felt like those were the easy picks. Washington, if Daniels is healthy, is the right pick, I think. Cincinnati's going to be better. Kansas City should be better, all that kind of stuff. So I picked two teams also. My two teams, I'm with you on the Giants. I said this in my draft episode about the Giants. I think that the Giants could win the division next year. They've got a quarterback in place that's good. They've got a run game. They've got some edge rushers that are out of this world. they've got the pieces in place. If they can just make the right draft picks and maybe a move or two here in free agency, the Giants so quickly could turn things around. And if we're comparing them to the Patriots, they bring in a new coach, but a new coach who is obviously a good coach. Vrabel, we knew he was a good coach when he went back to New England. And John Harbaugh, we know is a good coach. So when you put those things together, along with the young quarterback, just like Drake May, a good running game, the passing game is questionable. They're going to need some targets. They're going to need some weapons out there to help. But if they can do that, if they can bolster that O-line, things will change drastically for the Giants. So they're my first team that I would choose. The second team, oddly enough, Dad, is the Titans. The Titans are a team I look at and I go, okay, if they're in the Super Bowl, I will not claim that. I will not claim that I called that. But the turnaround could be drastic. You look at the coaching staff that was put in there. We talked about it last episode. Robert Saleh's the head coach, Brian Daboll, the offensive coordinator, Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator. They've got pieces. They've got salary cap space, so they can go out and sign pieces. They've got high draft picks, so they can make some pretty impactful picks this year. Everything has to go right for the Titans, but that's exactly what could happen. And they're in a division that, although it has a lot of talent, there's been no one that has just run away with the division as of late. So if Daniel Jones comes back for the Colts, there's that option. There's Jaguars who are better this year. It's the Texans who made a run this year. But all three of those teams have their issues also. So they're in a division. Maybe they could make some noise too. So the Giants is the team I'm picking, but the Titans is my backup team here, as I could see them going from 3-14 to 9 or 10 wins next season, which would be a pretty drastic turnaround for the Titans, I think, at the very least. So we'll see. Cameron Ward has to continue to develop. And like I said, everything has to fall in place. And with that ownership, it very well may not do so. But we will see. All right, let's flip it to the Seahawks now. The Seahawks this year made a big move at quarterback. They went out and signed a free agent quarterback. They traded away DK Metcalf. They did some things on their team this year. They drafted well too. So who is the team that we think can be the Seahawks, where maybe it's a veteran move that makes the big difference for the team and bolsters them to that next level that Seattle got to this year?
Well, I think especially when you look at quarterback, I think the team that, if they can get the right quarterback, is poised and ready to go is the Colts. Indianapolis. They played well when Daniel Jones was healthy. Even they did well with him.
Yeah.
Whether they'll re-sign him again. But again, if they went out and got a quarterback that, would be stable and could do it. I mean, they've got one of the best running backs. They've got wide receivers. They drafted a great tight end. I think I think the Colts is a team that can make a difference real quick if they can make a move like that, a quarterback. The second one, again, if they get the right quarterback, would be Pittsburgh. I think McCarthy can do good things there. I don't think Aaron Rodgers necessarily is the answer, and that's who they're going to try to get. But if they could get a quarterback in there, again, McCarthy and the staff he's got, they know how to handle people. That would be potential. And the other team, we've talked a lot about them, as Minnesota. Minnesota does not have the talent they had 2 years ago. They're kind of getting past, I think, their time. They've got one of the best wide receivers, no doubt about that. But do they have everything else? But if they had a quarterback, they're going to have to get some kind of quarterback different than what they had this year, I think. Again, they've got a good coach. So Minnesota, but again, Minnesota's in a division that's really tough. Chicago's getting better. Green Bay, if they get healthy, is going to be a handful for everybody. Detroit, they've got to rebound a little bit, but they've got talent. So You know, Minnesota I have there at the end of the list, but to me, the Colts is the obvious one.
Well, we're thinking on the same wavelength. I put the Colts on my list. I ended up taking them off because I kind of felt like I was cheating if they re-signed Daniel Jones, but I'm with you on that. Minnesota I considered on this list, but kind of like you, there's more that will have to go on, but possibly. I have the Steelers on my list, 10-7. The Seahawks were 10-7 last year. Like you said, the right quarterback. There's a few options out there, free agents or trade market options out there. I could see that because the Browns are no good. The Bengals, whatever, it never works out for them. And the Ravens, new coach, maybe it takes a year to figure things out. So I think Pittsburgh's a good choice. The other team, Dad, is the Dolphins. I look at Miami. You look at their staff. I don't really love the staff they're putting together, but they've got some weapons down there. They've got a running back. If they don't trade away their receiver, they've got Jalen Waddle. Everyone assumes, I'm included on this, Malik Willis ends up being the quarterback down there because of his ties with the GM and the coach. But maybe they go somewhere else with it, whatever it may be. I could see them making a change and it working out for them. Last year, the Seahawks traded away Geno Smith. It looks like the Dolphins are going to trade away Tua Tagovailoa. They brought in Sam Darnold. Looks like Miami will have to bring in somebody, whether it's Malik Willis or somebody else. And so those are my teams. Dolphins and Steelers are the two teams I'm looking at that could make that one big offensive free agent signing, quarterback, and then add some other pieces along the way too that helps them move on forward at the very least also. When you look at what's going on this offseason, free agents, there's a bunch of them. I'm not going to run through all of them, but I've got 4 that I'm interested in that I think could make a big impact with an opportunity in the right spot. So I'll start with, or actually I got 5. I'm sorry, 5 of these. Seattle cornerback Joshua Jobe, 27 years old. He got cut by the Eagles. He got picked up by the Seahawks on the practice squad. And next thing you know, he's starting in the Super Bowl, and he's going to be one of the prized cornerback possessions here in free agency. So he could re-sign with Seattle, of course, but that Super Bowl bump that some of these players get, there's going to be someone out there looking for him at cornerback. So I like him. Tampa Bay running back Rachaad White is now the backup in Tampa. He's a free agent. He had 1,000-yard season. He's catching passes, all that kind of stuff. And there's going to be someone wanting him and someone that will give him an opportunity to come in and play football. And I think Rachaad White will be a great sign this offseason. A linebacker, Nakobe Dean from the Eagles. They drafted his replacement this last year in the first round. He has been injured every year, but he has loads of talent. So a new scenery for him. Gives him a great opportunity to come in and play. If he can stay healthy, I think he could be a major addition for a team. Then 2 more. Wide receiver Jawan Jennings out of San Francisco, 15 touchdowns over the last 2 years. He could re-sign in San Francisco, but I could see him being a target for someone like the Giants or someone like that. So keep an eye out for him as a free agent wide receiver. And then the last one I'll mention is an obvious one, Trey Hendrickson, the Cincinnati edge rusher. All kinds of talent. They had all kinds of people wanting to get him last year, and now he's a free agent, so anyone can sign him. Watch for teams, like Las Vegas, could throw some money at him. Then other teams that had some big defensive hires this year, like the Titans, I think are teams to watch there, as well as the Ravens. Teams that you could watch, the Bills, those kinds of teams are the teams I'd be watching for with Trey Hendrickson. Dad, any of those names intrigue you or any others that you think of?
Well, the only one we've already, you alluded to him when you talked about the Dolphins, would be Malik Willis. Yeah. Very interesting to see what happens there. I don't think the Packers will be able to keep him. They would love to, but I'm a little higher on him than you are as far as, I think he has showed with the opportunities he's had that he has the ability to be, the starting quarterback. Again, he has to be in some ways in the right system. But any quarterback, you have to work your system around him. Yeah. I think with the ability he showed to run, to really make a difference there, to extend the play. And then I was very shocked and impressed with his accuracy. I mean, he can throw the ball. He can throw it down the field. He can throw it in a tight window. I think, when he came out, the Titans didn't handle him right. He wasn't ready then. But I think being under Matt LaFleur, being in the system he's been in, having time, and being able to come up and just jump on the field and play and do well, his confidence is there. I think a lot of teams may be interested in him. Names, we haven't heard, because I think he is one of the most ready guys, to step in, at least based on what he showed so far.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of teams that are gunning for Malik Willis, but I do think there are teams. I think Arizona and Miami make the most sense. The offensive system that's going to be run in Arizona is going to be very similar to what Green Bay does, and Miami probably as well. So there are options for sure out there. Todd Monken, his offense would fit him very well, but Cleveland seems like they're all in on Shedeur Sanders right now. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but if I was Malik Willis, I would not go to Cleveland. So I think Arizona and Miami are the teams to watch for him. I think Malik Willis is very good. I think he's a starter in the league. I stop very short of saying he's better than Jordan Love, which I have to deal with those comments up here in the Wisconsin area all the time. We should trade Jordan Love and keep Malik Willis. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard. But nonetheless, it's an opportunity for sure. Kevin Wilson asks a question here. Who do you like more, Willis or Jones? And I'm assuming you're meaning Mac Jones or Daniel Jones, Kevin. But either way, I like Willis more than both of them. His mobility that he gives is something that I like a lot more. And I think that it's an opportunity for a team that's looking for a quarterback. And I said this on Twitter this week, Dad. Why would you go out and sign Joe Flacco, Kirk Cousins, those guys that have been there, but they're past their prime? Why would you go sign them to be your starting quarterback when you've got Malik Willis and Trey Lance and Mac Jones and all those guys? Like, why not try the new thing? You already know what you got with the old thing, and it's not a Super Bowl. So why not try something newer out there, is my opinion at the very least on that one. Let's talk trades. I got three names to keep an eye on. The first one is A.J. Brown. It seems like his time in Philadelphia is over. I've heard the Titans mentioned, which is hilarious. I've heard the Patriots mentioned as well. I think the Raiders are a team you have to watch out for here as well. But I think A.J. Brown gets moved this offseason. Buffalo might be a team to watch out for too, Dad. A.J. Brown is not what he used to be, but he is still a very good wide receiver, and he's a wide receiver one for a team that's lacking that. How valuable do you think A.J. Brown still is?
Oh, I think, like I said, he's a definite one. He can make a difference. I think, for a team that's, looking for that, I think he'll still have a good career for several years. So he'd be a good pickup, and, any number of teams could make a difference there. He can be a little bit of a character at times, but he's a good wide receiver, and we will see. That would be exciting, him back in Nashville. So
yeah. All right, then Max Crosby in Vegas. I think Crosby stays in Vegas. I don't think he gets moved. I think it's kind of like Myles Garrett last year, where there's going to be a lot of smoke about it, but ultimately he gets his contract redone. he has the injury issues too that seem to be kind of not super transparent on, needless to say. But I think he stays in Vegas. I think the vibe is good there right now. The hire of Kubiak is a positive hire. The number one draft pick, all that kind of stuff plays into it. So I think Crosby stays. But any thoughts on Max Crosby as a potential trade candidate?
Yeah, I would think he would stay. It wouldn't make any sense to me for a team, trying to get things turned around to get rid of a guy like Crosby. He had some trouble there at the end, but again, that was the way the team was doing things. I think the new coach, it depends who they get as the defensive coordinator. Max Crosby's a difference maker. I would think he would stay around. I think you're right. It's a lot like the deal with, Garrett last year.
Yeah. The last one's a quarterback. So there's several quarterbacks out there that are on the market right now. You've got Mac Jones, you've got Kyler Murray, you've got Tua Tagovailoa, and there's others that are available. Kirk Cousins, that looks like he's going to get cut or traded, one of the two also. But I want to talk about Kyler Murray. I think we've talked about Mac Jones this year. He played himself into a nice deal. He's going to get into a good spot, opportunity to start, all that kind of stuff. Tua, there's so many issues there, but, maybe he gets a chance somewhere too. But I'm interested with Kyler because Kyler is still that freak athlete, but he's never been able to reach his full potential because he doesn't seem to really put in the work to do so. But he is that talent. He is that, just that skill set. What do you think happens with Kyler Murray? And is there a fit? Because you're looking at Jets, Steelers. Those are the two main teams I'm looking at. Maybe Cleveland. I'm not sure. But do you think Kyler Murray gets, number one, a legit chance? Number two, does he rebound in a new place?
Well, I think Kyler Murray definitely would get a chance when you look at the guys, and you look at the success he's had. The issue to me with Murray is, injuries, and part of that's because of his size. Yeah. And he runs. I don't think he's the most durable quarterback, but he can really make a difference. He's exciting. And I think, again, if you got a team that had an offensive line, that could block for him, you get him in the right system, he's better than some of the other names you mentioned there. And I would think somebody would get him. Again, he might be a good guy to get even if you're going to draft a quarterback and develop a guy from there. So, I would think he will latch on somewhere. It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think Mac Jones is the one to really watch, him and Malik Willis. Everyone says Kirk Cousins is going to go back to Minnesota. If you're Minnesota, if you're going to plan on him starting, I don't know why. If you're playing this for him to be the backup to McCarthy for 1 year to see if they can get McCarthy on track, because there's not going to be a guy in the draft this year for Minnesota. So why not play McCarthy one more year and get the best possible draft pick? The reason why you don't do that is because Justin Jefferson said this week, we got to get quarterback figured out. So if your star player is basically told the world, J.J. McCarthy's not him, you're going to have to do something different, but it's not Kirk Cousins. Mac Jones will be a great fit in Minnesota with that offense. Dome, all that kind of stuff would fit perfectly up there for Minnesota. But we'll see. We don't trust Minnesota to do anything smart, needless to say. So there is that as well. All right, Dad, any other thoughts on teams from this year, looking into next year, or any other football thoughts?
No, I think, like I said, it's been a good year. And like I said, it's going to start right up now, getting ready for the draft. Once you get to the, free agent part, that's going to be interesting to see where some of these guys, move around right off and see what we have now with all the coaching hires are settled. I assume there's still a little bit to be hired in the staffs, but that's getting settled too. So, yeah, it's all eyes toward next year. There's been talk about it's going to be 9 international games next year. That's different. There'll be a lot of talk next year about the 18 games. The players don't want that, so I don't know that they'll ratify that early. But that will be an issue, that obviously will come up. One interesting thing I heard, I'm sure you did too, about the Super Bowl next year will be the first time it will not be on straight network TV. So that's kind of interesting. Everything's always changing with the NFL. So you never know, but ESPN has it next year. So.
Yeah, I think it's still going to be on ABC though. So at the end of the day, it's still going to be available, needless to say, but we'll see. Draft order is set. We're doing all kinds of draft content right now on the Sports Stove YouTube channel. You can check out those videos. Tomorrow morning, we drop an episode that covers the teams without a first-round pick. So we look at the Colts, the Falcons, the Packers, and the Jaguars. That drops Wednesday morning. And then Friday morning, we'll drop the Seahawks and the Patriots episodes talking about the draft and what they can do, what they will do, what they should do, all those kinds of good things as well will be up there. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's important. Make sure you subscribe there. Then follow us on social media at Sports Stove. That's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And then make sure you check out our sponsors, Righteous Felon Jerky. That's at righteousfelon.com. The promo code is STOVE15, STOVE15. That'll get you your discount at checkout as well. All right, Dad, that's it. This program, the Sports Show Football Show, will be on a little bit of a hiatus, but the Sports Stove Draft Show is still alive and kicking, and will be consistent here leading up to the NFL draft. So make sure you stay tuned in and ready to go for the NFL draft coverage. And we might have some interviews that will be dropping, and we'll get you posted on that on social media as well. So stay tuned, follow along. We sure appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of the Sports Stove Football Show. Until next time, we'll see you around the Sports Stove.